Here are the items you will need. Pre-soaked straws, 10 here for the body and 4 for the arms. Some strong thread, this is linen thread, sharp scissors and some ribbon for decorating. So for the arms, if you take 4 of the slightly shorter straws that we've got there, you line up the ears, the bottom of the ears. There we go. And we're going to tie a clove hitch knot here. You can push it a little bit further up before you tie it tight. Tie it nice and tight and do your overhand knot and trim your threads. For now we're going to leave the ears because it actually makes it easier. And we're going to splay out the straws so you've got all 4 points of the compass. You've got a north, a south, an east and a west. And all we're going to do is swap north and south and then swap your east and your west. Once you've done that once, you can actually see, if I just focus this, that there's a little gap that side as if this straw wants to go into that gap, and a gap this side as if that straw wants to go into that gap, and the same here. We've already done this one, the east and west, so the next one we need to do is the north and south again. So again, we'll swap them there, that's fitting into that gap, and that one is fitting into that gap. And here again the same, there's a gap this side that one's going to fit into, so we're swapping the east and the west, and we just keep going, swapping north and south and east and west. And the best way to hold it probably is to put it in your hand like this with the thumb on top. You can do it left-handed or right-handed. I'm doing it right-handed, so you might just want to hold it in the other hand if you're left-handed. So we just keep going. And you'll see in a little while that lovely little plait here is starting to form. So we just keep going. Once you have the length of plait you need, if you've done it a little bit tight, you can just stretch it out slightly as well. And we're going to tie another clove hitch knot at this end. So again, grabbing some thread, tying another clove hitch, nice and tight, and then your overhand knot. And then we're going to cut our threads here. Give it a little stretch if you need to. And this is going to form our arms. So now we're going to make the main body using the 10 long damp straws here. Having the ears in about the same position, like so, and then just trimming off any that are slightly longer at this end. And then we're going to measure from the bottom of the ears. You measure up around about 14 centimetres, just making sure that you've got a much longer bit this end. So if I measure on these ones 14 centimetres up, from there I've got around 21 centimetres left, which will be great. So 14 centimetres up from the bottom of the ears, you're going to tie with your thread. So we're tying a clove hitch knot here. Just making sure I've got enough. You can adjust these little ears as well here, making sure you've got much more of a length this side than this side. So I'm going to pull that nice and tight. That is going to be her skirt. Putting that nice and tight and doing an overhand knot, and then we can trim our threads. We're going to take these ends with the ears, and we're going to fold all of them going all the way round down over the top, turning round so that you make sure you get them folded down at the back as well. There we go. There we go. And then this bit is going to form our head, and you can see now that these ends are just slightly longer than the ears there. So you can push this down to get a nice shape, and then using the strong thread again, we're going to tie another clove hitch. You can tie it a little bit further down, but don't pull it tight yet. It just makes it a bit easier doing it, actually creating the knot further down to start with. And then once you've got the knot, before you put it really tight, move it up so that you've got a little head forming here. So pull it nice and tight so that it all splays out. Tie in an overhand knot, and then you can cut your threads. So we should have something that looks like this. These are ever so slightly longer than the ears, which is really good. So we're going to again take these pieces, and going round, we're going to fold them all down, going all the way round. That's it. There we go, until we've folded all 10 back down again. So this is actually going to be the top of the head, and this is going to be the bottom. So we decide which side looks neater. To be honest, they don't look too bad. I've got a knot here though, so I think if I make this the front, I'll turn it round and do my knot at the back. So grabbing your thread again, we'll do another clove hitch. There we go. And you can actually just about see and definitely feel as well where the bottom of that piece that you did earlier is. So if you just push the thread up to there, and we'll tie it nice and tight just underneath that piece there. And this is now her neck. Overhand knot, and cut your threads. And if we turn around, you can see this is now her face, and this is her skirt. So we're going to grab those arms that we did earlier. I'm going to lift up 5 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I'm going to push those arms up and under there. Now you can actually bring these round and tie them together if you want to, but some people like to leave them out like this. So we're going to now tie a knot here as an empire line. So we'll just turn her to the back again, and grabbing our strong thread again, and we will tie another clove hitch here. Again, tie it, sort of getting it ready a little bit lower down, and then before you put it really tight, make sure the arms are in place and move it up to the empire line, and then pull nice and tight so that her skirt splays out. Overhand knot again, and trim your threads. So now we have her arms, this is her face and her skirt. We just need to do her hair. So all we're going to do, instead of folding them to the front, is folding them down to the sides. And also to the back. There we go. And then here, yeah, you can just give it a bit of volume here as well before you tie it. The last knot is this one that ties the hair in place. We'll grab some strong thread again. We'll do our last clove hitch knot. Again, I'm doing this a little bit further down than it actually needs to be. And we'll push it in place before we tie it tight. There we go. We'll pull it right up to the same level as that empire line waist again. Getting all the hair in the right place. There's one that's just a little bit out of place here, so I'm just going to pull that down slightly. Before you pull it really tight, just make sure you're happy with where everything is. Like so. And then, yep, pull really tight, and then you'll see these straws splaying out again. We'll do our last overhand knot. And cut those threads off. You can probably just manipulate this hair a little bit if you need to as well. There we go. This straw is sticking out a little bit there, so I'm just going to pull that slightly. There we go. And there she is. And here she is finished. You can either cut these straight at the bottom so that they can splay out and she would be able to stand, or like I've done, a little loop around her waist so she can be a decoration on the wall. And then I've actually cut these at a quill point with the scissors at an angle like that to give it a little decorative bit at the bottom there. I've also put a matching coloured ribbon at the bottom here because I just quite like that. But you can decorate her however you like.